Good morning, everyone. Ron Nicoletti along with very special guest this afternoon, Ashley Mayu, joining me on what is Kentucky Derby Day. Great day here in South Florida. Fast main track, Fern Turf course. We got the Tapeta, 12 races, 2 stakes, and the Kentucky Down.
It's a big day to get called off the bench for handicapping. You mentioned it, 12 races, 2 of those stakes, looking at those, they're both for 3-year-olds on the turf at a mile. They look really competitive, especially the race for the girls. You mentioned it's Kentucky Derby Day, but plenty of action here, too.
Oh, yeah, lots of good action here. And talking about action, you got the Rainbow Six this afternoon with this 12-race card. That's why we're on the air a little earlier with a $150,000 gross jackpot guarantee. That will kick off in race number 7 through 12. We had 4 logical horses able to win it in the last race yesterday, and the 8, one of them wasn't covered, came flying out the outside. So if you were the one that got a little tough beat, you come back right in and try again today.
Yeah, today I think it's a tough sequence, Ron. We mentioned there's stakes action involved, especially the girls' race, which is part of that sequence. I think it's wide open.
Well, we got to get right to it because we have 12 races to talk about, and Brian put an early pick 5 ticket together. We'll quickly take a look at it. He's got lots of coverage here in the first race. Pretty wide open affair, 4 through the 8. And then he's got a couple in the race number 2. Boy, I like Farm Boy. He didn't use him up there. We'll see how that plays out. Coverage in race number 3 does have my top pick, Wicked Temptations. Singles in race 4 with the number 3 horse in there, Winning Factor. And in race number 5 to 8, I Love Magel. So $20, very affordable.
Really affordable. I agree with him in race 4. I think the 3's maybe a standout in there. I think there's other horses for minor shares. And a little nervous about his race 5 because I Love Magel is a horse that I use underneath.
Yeah, I had him on top, but I'm saying, well, Brian does a great job with those tickets. Getting to the first race, it's going to be about 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Maiden claim is 3-year-olds and up, $16,000. Very few scratches on the card today, but we do have one in here, the number 3. And note the jockey on the 4 is Strong Again, is now Lionel Reyes. And we both started it with the number 4, Strong Again.
I think when you start looking at this field, the horse to the outside of him showed some early speed last time and quit. And the case is Strong Again for Liam McCann's. I like the last 2 performances, especially the 1-2 back. I know the big question today, can this horse go 2 turns? But I thought that the races on the Tapeta were both strong. The only turf race was on debut against 50,000 optional claimers. So I think today will be interesting to see this one back on the grass.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I thought he might be the sneaky speed in this race. We'll talk about the 5, who we have in 3rd and 2nd, because Structural Damage is cutting back to the 7.5 today after opening, surrendering that early 2.5 length lead when finishing a weakening 6th against Similar going a mile. So that's where I thought that this horse has got to prove to me that he could stretch his speed to the while, and I thought I lean towards the 4 Strong Again a little more.
Me too. I think kind of looking at those races, obviously coming out of sprints and being close to the pace, Strong Again figures to be part of that pace once again today. In the case of Structural Damage, I still used him in here because he did have that early speed last time out. He stepped up, in my opinion, from those races on the Tapeta to the turf. I know he finished 6th, but he was only beaten by 3 lengths, and now it's his 2nd time going 2 turns.
And what about the number 8 Dunnigan that you have on your ticket from Bobby DeBono?
Yeah, this is going to be ridden by Kevin Krager, who's the 2 for 4 so far at this meet. I thought these races, last time out, I'm going to draw a line through. It was on the Tapeta, looking at the turf efforts. The 1-2 back, this horse was forwardly placed. That was against 35,000 maiden claiming. So obviously today, this is some serious class relief.
Yeah, and I thought the 6 Millennium Condor that I used could end up sitting in the trip of Strong Again and Structural Damage, get hooked in that early duel for Herman Walensky, Romero Mirage in the saddle today. But I think that Ashley and I with the 4 might be the logical contender in there. But look at the board so far, very early in the wagering. It's all over the place. We've got 3 or 4 horses up there, 4 or 5 to 1. Race number 2 this afternoon, about 1 mile and 70 yards on the Tapeta. These are claimers 3-year-olds of 4 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 20 down to $16,000. We'll start it off with your horse in here is the morning line favorite, and that is Impressive Speed.
For me, I thought it was 2 horses, kind of in the top 2. Your top pick and my top pick. Looking at Impressive Speed last time out, that was going a mile against 35,000 non-winners of 2 life. Finished, an okay performance in there. Rounded out the superfecta, was only beaten by 2.5. I think this horse has had some good form before that. And the big thing, I'm kind of keen on those races. 1 here at Gulfstream Park going a mile and 70 yards on the Tapeta, and then up at Woodbine. I know maybe from a class perspective, a little lesser, but his form and his numbers certainly fit the spot.
Well, I want to go back and show you Farm Boy's last race on the all-weather. And this is going to be back in September 30th. Now, you're going to see Farm Boy here as they kick in. Now, this horse was dueling on off the lead all the way around the track. And if you remember back in September, this is like the first week or two of the all-weather surface, and horses couldn't win on the front end.
Yeah.
I just thought this horse, now I'm going back a little bit to September, but I wanted to key it. And that horse in front is Emoji Guy, 9-5, who came back right again to win, and I thought Farm Boy did all the dirty work through that whole race.
You mentioned first week or two. That was the first race ever
Oh,
on
that
the
was right.
Tapeta.
Who was that?
And Farm Boy was forwardly placed, and Emoji Guy actually sat the trip with Edwin Gonzalez. I believe that one was trained by Kathleen O'Connell, and set off the pace and made the move. And I thought this horse really had a game shot in there. When you look at the numbers, you know, it's by far his best number. He had a 78 Beyer speed figure, and I think his races since then, he's been in some tough spots, and he kind of held his own. And you pulled the replay. I also pulled a stat here, so we're kind of on the same page here with Farm Boy. Just looking at Diane Morici and kind of her numbers, she does really well with horses that have had anywhere from 2 to 6 months off the past year. 19% from a sample size of 21, but in the money 62% of the time with a low ROI, $1.10. So obviously we're on the same page. Farm Boy has a big shot today.
Yeah, I thought that, you know, I like this horse, and I remember that race, probably because it was the first ever race on there. And I used Sun Vikings dropping to the 20 condition level for Jose Garofalo, Sammy Camacho in the saddle. We sort of got the same super, just boxed around a little bit. Let's go to race number 3 this afternoon. It's a 1-mile race. It's on the fast main track. These are claimers 3 or 4 and up, non-winners of 3 races in life, $6,250. And Wicked Temptations is your top pick. And what we'll do before we talk about it, let's go back. We're going to take a couple of looks at this horse's start here. It's not as bad as I thought it was at the beginning. You're going to see this horse is just going to have its head turned at the start. Then you see Wicked Temptations ends up, you know, just doesn't get that clean start in here. Now we're going to show you the pen. You can just see where this horse ends up and just has to sort of get going, and ends up actually being last early on, and then we'll just, you know, go back. That great job by Bob pointing that horse out. Then we'll just take it to the top of the stretch where he's forced to close, as you can see, 5 wide in there. I just thought it was a good performance.
I thought it was a good performance overall. I think he was a little further back early on because of that start than he probably prefers, and he keeps on grinding here with Prez in the saddle, and it looks like he might try to get there, and he only misses here by just over a length. I like the performance. The big thing, though, it's going 6.5. Today he's got to go a mile, and so far the mile hasn't been good to him. But you think in a race like that, maybe the mile would have been the great distance.
Well, we'll see how it plays. I think you got a stat on Mr. Eddie Pleasa?
Yeah, Eddie Pleasa has just had one heck of a year so far, 31% on the year, but he does really well with horses second off after having a bit of a freshening between 45 and 180 days. The stats for the last 2 years, 24% in terms of wins, 62% in the money with a $2.12 ROI. So we know the numbers are great for the barn so far. A lot to like about this one.
And then number 4, King Cairo, is dropping to this level today of $6,250 after stepping up off the claim by Amador Sanchez. Finished 4th against 8 claimers, going a mile 70 yards on the Tapeta. Second at this distance on the dirt, a couple of starts back. Looks like a solid spot for this horse.
He's consistent here at Gulfstream. We see that in his record on the main track. Last time out, that race was on the Tapeta, so maybe he had some excuses. Not only the level, but it was on a different surface. So I think getting on the back onto the dirt looks tough. And you start to look down. When he's in for 62.50, he's been claimed a couple times. At one point, the claiming price was higher. So to me, these were the logicals.
Yeah, they did. Those two look like you need to get through that race, and I think Brian used them on his early pick 5 ticket. We'll go to race number 4, go back to the turf course this afternoon, 1 mile and 116. Claim is 3, 4 and up, non-winners of 3 in life, or a race since November 7th. So we got a triple condition race here, and we'll start it off with Winning Factor, who goes to the Mike Maker Braun.
This is Brian's first single of 2 in that early pick 5. This horse was just narrowly defeated last time out by a neck behind Morning Stride. I thought it was a pretty good effort. Obviously, this horse maybe caught the eye of Mike Maker, going to race now first off the claim. The barn does fairly well with that angle. I just think this horse is going to sit a good trip just off the pace. Now, the only, I guess, the only knock on this horse, 5 for 6 in the money at Gulfstream on the turf, no wins.
No wins in him, but Miguel Vasquez, he had 3 wins again yesterday. Yep. He's been, since he's got his 1,000th, he's just on his way to 2,000 already. I did switch around here and go with the number 6 horse, who we have a little further down, Mohawk, who's now in the Amador Sanchez barn, the son of Uncle Mo. He's dropping to this 35 level today. First start since finishing that stalk to pace 3rd against 50 condition claimers, going a mile in February. The barn is pretty sharp when they get new additions to their shed row, about 22%. You got the go-to rider Hector Berrios in the saddle today. And I just thought that this horse, at this level here, Condition Claimant might be the one to beat, and I agree with you and Brian, the reasons for using the number 3 Winning Factor. Now, tell me about the horse I did not use, and that's the 2 Sash, the British bed.
This was a horse who I wasn't sure how much play was going to take in that first race since coming over from the West Coast, and went off at 10-1 last time out. Was kind of involved early, but I think there was some trouble in this trip. This horse got bumped around and shuffled around and really kind of surrendered in the end. So I'm hoping now, second off the freshening and just with a cleaner trip today, that this horse can improve, because some of those races that we see out in California on the turf, this horse has some early foot, has an inside draw today. So I think this one will probably be part of that pace scenario.
Yeah, Jeff Mullins been a little snake
Yeah.
bit since here. His horses have all run exceptionally well. He's had horses get loose on the track. You know, he's just getting used, acclimated to South Florida here, and you make great points with that. And Kevin Krieger, boy, he's like you said, he's 2 for 4 at the meet. I used the number 3 Winning Factor in second. It goes to the mic. Oh no, not that. That we already talked about. That. I used a thread of blue as my 3rd pick in here, and that was a 2-time winner at the distance. Stretches out, finished 3rd behind Winning Factor, going at 8 furlongs. Good connections with Emmanuel Jaramillo and Rise for Marcassi.
He has backlash. It's been a while since he's won, but look at his purse earnings. He's made over $1 million on the racetrack in 24 starts. In his last couple, I think his last 2 efforts here at this level, they've been good. He's going to need to move up once again, and typically the problem with him is we know speed can be dangerous on the turf. He's closing, but last time out, he looked great in the stretch.
Number 3 Winning Factor for both you and Brian in race number 4. Race number 5 this afternoon is a mile and a 16th, about distance on the Tapeta. Maiden claim is fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, $12,500. Scratch the 4 straight to go. And number 8 is where I'll start it up, and this is I Love Magel. Was this another single of his? Yes, it was. Stretching out slightly after responding to the drop down to this level with a set the pace second, going to mile 70 on the Tapeta for Rodolfo Garcia. Miguel Vasquez in the saddle. For me, it was one of those speed plays.
It is a speed play, and you mentioned last time out, stretched out to 2 turns on the Tapeta and handled it really well. Made the lead coming out of those sprints, because this horse was involved in some of those 1-turn Tapeta races and just, kind of tired a little bit late, so you have to think maybe second time going long. This horse certainly looks good, especially off the last race with a 57 buyer.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the favorites. I want to hear about your horse, the 6 Always Eating, because I'm looking down and it's 12-1.
This is my long shot on the card. It's a daughter of Oxbow who's going to get blinkers on for the first time in her career, and I thought, looking at her races, she's been in tougher spots. Her races on the Tapeta have been her best. When you go back to some of these races, the $25,000 maiden claimer, I know that was back in November, closed late to finish second. After that, took on Males and was 3rd, beaten by 2.5 lengths. The winner of that one, 40 Flash, if I'm not mistaken, was on the front in that race. So I think this horse, class relief, getting back on the Tapeta with blinkers, maybe she'll be engaged early, or at least a bit more. And I like her. I hope I get 12-1.
Yeah, you make a great point with the horse, and ridden today by Marcos Meneses, who brings in some long shots every once in a while. I love the fact that we're all over the place in here. I'll go with the 2 Presencia, who's second at a mile in the 16th, 2 starts back. Stretches out after usual slow start. If you read through her past performance, slow start. She finished 4th behind I Love Magel last time out. I think the added distance can be a plus for the Antonio Sano Romero Mirage collaboration.
I think her race 2 back really puts her in the mix. She beat Bitty Baby, who's in this field again. If you look 3 back, she was 4th, who was in front of her straight to go, who was the scratch. So I scratched into Presencia, but I think last time out, you mentioned she's off slow, and that's typical of her, but it really didn't help her in that race at all.
I couldn't make the morning line favorite in here. I see you have her higher rated than me, and that's B. Wright. Of course, Mike Maker, Emmanuel Jaramillo.
You're going to make that first start here locally, and last time out was on the Tapeta, but that was at Turfway Park, so they bring this one back to Florida. It was an okay 4th, split the field against Bigger, so I think the main play here, and that's why this horse is 3-1 on the morning line, is just the class drop alone.
As you mentioned at the top, 2 stakes races this afternoon. The first one comes in race 6, so it'll not be part of the Rainbow Six, but we do have a stake in that sequence. This is going to be a 1-mile turf event for 3-year-olds. It is the $75,000, the English Channel, and we both have the number 1, Tap, the Speed of Sound on top, who's a full brother to a Grade 1 stakes place. Tap It to win. Let's go back and show you this race up at Tampa. Also want to point out in here Merlin, who's 17-1, but we'll show you Tap the Speed Tap the Speed of Sound on top. He's a full brother, as you mentioned, to a good horse. This was the $100,000 sophomore turf on the upstate of Tampa. And I thought he ran very well in there that day. He is the number 8 horse in there, and he's got the lead. But look on the inside. I wanted to point out Merlin, too, who just everybody's coming to the wire together. Now, Tap the Speed of Sound is going to be a big price today. Merlin, I thought, ran a good third, was 17-1 in that race. So I think both those horses coming out. Now, that horse that closed on the outside was the 6-5 favorite, Treasure King from Todd Pletcher. So I thought it was a great race. There's no Treasure Kings in here today.
Yeah, and look at Tap the Speed of Sound. Had a little bit of a freshening after that maiden score here, that maiden optional. This being the Florida bred, wasn't in for the tag, and Gate to Wire there. Tried to do it at Tampa. There was an improvement in the figs. I really liked the effort just to get kind of nailed in the final stages. So to me, looking at the 2 stakes today, the top 2, and that's why we're probably in agreement, this looked to be kind of a more formful race than the other. I think in the other race, you can kind of maybe make a case for several.
You know, the number 5, Bob Marco, who I used in third, you used a 4. We came from off the pace to score in the grass last time out. He could end up sitting in that catbird seat behind what should be a really solid early pace again for Mary Epler. And you got Miguel Vasquez, who's just in a zone.
And last time was first time on the turf. Broke the maiden on the dirt here, going that 1-turn mile. Then didn't fare too well on the cutback. And I think to see that horse kind of really accelerate first-time turf, you mentioned, might get the trip just off the pace. Worth a shot in the exotics.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. But what we'll do right now is take a short break. And when we come back, we'll have my Rainbow Six ticket, and we'll talk about the final 6 on the card.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round off her inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back, Ron and Ashley here. So glad to have you along. This morning, was it still? It's still morning.
Still morning.
It's still morning. So this morning, but we'll be together all afternoon. Of course, Brian will be joining us in a little while. Race number 7 is a 6 furlong sprint. This is where the Rainbow Six starts. Let's quickly go through my ticket. And we got a $48.60 ticket today. And my single's going to come in race number 8. It's Isadorable Aida. I like this horse. I just think it's in a good spot this afternoon. And I got coverage. I almost made in race number 9, the 10 American, of course, from Kathleen O'Connell, my best bet of the day. I didn't do that, but I like that horse today. But being I had a single, I had some coverage. Race number 10, everybody in America is going to be singling Mish. I'm going to try and beat that horse with this jockey and Kambax's Candy. And the Honey Rider, as you mentioned, part of this. I'm going with the speed in there, Fawning, when I've got Diamond Wow, who's just... It was the bad, we're going to show it, the worst beat of all of 2021. And then the last 1, 4, and 6 would squeeze me, Mike, as my top pick.
See, we're kind of in agreement, I guess, in race 11, wide open. I go to the 8s. I'm glad you used Love Her Lots in there. And race 12, I thought that was probably the most difficult race on the card to handicap. So I'm glad you have some coverage.
Yeah, I know you need some coverage in there. Getting back to this race here, I started it off with the number 5 horse in here, and that is Adios Bay. But we'll start with yours because you got a stat on a Wick of Wisdom, who's turning back to this 6 furlong distance.
Debuted at this level on the slop, which is sometimes a tall task. And this horse was favored, so horse didn't break too sharply, was kind of at the back of the pack, made up ground to finish 3rd, beaten by 3 lengths. But the real reason that I'm backing this horse is a stat that I pulled for trainer Ralph Nix, and I was telling him about it yesterday on the rail, and I didn't know if he knew this, but with maiden second time out just the past 6 months, so basically looking at 2022, 7 for 11, 64% in terms of wins, 73% in the money with a great ROI of $4.21. So I'm just hoping this horse can maybe add one more to that stat.
Whew. Sure, Glenn. I used that one on my Rainbow Six ticket. After looking at that stat, I went with Adios Papers going to the Bill Terrenos barn. Bill, what a winter he had here coming down from Canada. Stretches out to 3/4 of a mile, chased the pace, finished second against Similar, going 5.5. Edgar Perez rides. Looked at the morning line in here. I didn't think this horse should be 8-5. I thought your horse would be a little closer, myself in there. But, we'll see how that plays out, but you can't go wrong betting Bill Theranos.
No, and this, first off, the claiming does pretty well, 17%. She's been having some nice works. The most recent one was a bullet, 35-4 for 3 furlongs, just second best last time out. So you have to think second time at this level, first for the trainer. She's a must-use. I do agree, though, 8-5, a little short, just knowing that she's 0 for 6 so far.
What about hard choice with the apprentice Ilsa Morrison?
Just saw a really big improvement last time out. She's been aboard this horse twice. First time didn't fare too well, going 6.5. You have to think maybe this horse was just, because this horse was on the lead, it was 7 furlongs, was able to kind of get the jump on the field and hung around for a second. But I thought it was improvement. Obviously does have that 7-pound weight break. She stays aboard. So I thought maybe a horse to use underneath in the try.
Well, let's go to race number 8 this afternoon, about 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Claimers, fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, $16,000 in here. I'll start it off because this is where I had my single today, taking a shot with a horse. I just like this horse. It's more about it. The number 3 is Adorable Aida, who's dropping to the 16th level, which I like a lot. I think this is a great spot for this horse. Turning back to the about 7.5 furlongs after setting a pressured pace, finishing third. That was against 32,000 starter optional claimers. That was going to mile. 6-time local turf winner who can win from on or just off the pace. Edwin Gonzalez at the controls. I just thought she jumped off the page for me. I mean, I can understand using Serenade a Kitten, but I wanted to get a single, so I had lots of other coverage on the Rainbow Six ticket.
She's interesting because she finished 5th at the end of 2021 in the Claiming Crown Tiara. I thought it was a good race, looking at who beat her. And then next time out, she's only beaten by a half a length by TikTok Famous, who's trained by Safi Joseph Jr. It was a good performance. They picked her for $25,000. She's had 2 okay races. I know 2 starts back she disappointed, but I think she's coming in here off a strong third where she was that pace setter. And I use her for second. I know you single her, but for me, I think these are both ones that you have to use.
Yeah, like I said, a good spot. But I'm a little afraid of the horse you have in top. I actually have it in second, Serenade Kitten, who's dropping back to this level.
Big thing last time out, going a mile on the turf against Tougher. She surrendered late in that race to finish 4th. I think the other 2 efforts before that, you can maybe draw some lines. I mean, I just don't think she likes the Tapeta like she likes the turf. Big thing here, look at those 4 wins. She's 4 for 6 locally on the grass.
Yeah, and it's Rohan Crichton, who's 31% at the meeting. He's been winning in bunches. Jose Morelos handling that inside draw. I went with the number 6, Ilsa Bonita, in third as a 3-time turf winner. Going back to the grass, she faced Tougher in a series of route races on the all-weather surface. Boy, Kent Sweezy started this meet and still is going good. So I used him. Miguel Vasquez, who's our leading rider right now. I figure I got to put this horse somewhere on my ticket. 5-1 on the morning line.
She's scary. She's only 4 years old. The one thing I didn't like about her, she's 0 for 4 here on the turf course. But you can see Kent tried to get her on the turf 2 and 3 starts back, and they were moved to the Tapeta. So I think when you factor in that, and as well as that, her turf races have been against Tougher. Maybe that's what she's needed as the class relief here.
That is race number 8. We'll go to race number 9. That's 6 furlongs. This is going to be on the fast main track this afternoon. It's allowance for state-bred fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. No scratches or jockey choke. No, we do it. I flip the page. We have the scratch of the 5 and the scratch of the number 8. Number 5, Sequin is the only horse I lost all day on the card.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good for scratches.
Yeah, so I am enamored with number 10, American, of course, who's turning back to 6 furlongs. We're going to go back and show you this horse's race from the 3/16 pole home last time. But when she duels throughout, but she just can't catch up to that 11-1 upsetter in there, frankly, my dear. I just thought it was a good performance last time out, and just one of those races that a lot of people will say, oh, no, you couldn't beat the 11-1 shot. I just thought it was a top-notch performance. And Kathleen O'Connell, consistent mare, I think 7 for 9 or 9, something like that in the money through her career. Thought this horse would run exceptionally well in there.
And kind of looking at this, kicks off the late pick 4, and I put a ticket together, and I was trying to figure out the structure. I couldn't leave her out based on what you showed, that performance last time out. Also used the 6 and the 9. Race 10, just 2 runners. You mentioned Mish. I'm going to use Disc Jockey as well on the rail. Race 11, the Honey Rider. I'll use the 6, 8, 9. You used the 8 and 9. The 10 was your additional. I thought the 6 was intriguing for Fausto Gutierrez. And then to wrap it up, I really struggled with race 12. It's wide open. Use the 3, 4, and the 5. So for me, $27. But I'm glad you like American, of course, because I couldn't leave this one out.
Yeah, and if we're talking about Mish. If you can find that horse and you like to single it, you could go. You got to go deeper in that last race. I agree, but it's really a tough one to figure out. So we showed you what American, of course, has done. Favorite, defeated state bred allowance runners going 7. It's a good horse in there. That was back on April 8th. That race that we showed you. You did go with the number 9 horse in here, Schmarmy.
I'm giving her one more shot. I've given her 2. Third time, hopefully, will be a charm. Going to get blinkers on today. She's failed as the favorite in her last 2. I will say, thought going 5.5. She had some troubles early on. I knew as soon as the break, she was not going to get the job done. She tried to close, rounded out the try, and then last time out, stretched out to the mile for the first time since almost, over a year ago. Before that, she was the pace setter and tired. So we'll see what happens today. New rider aboard, Miguel Vasquez, you mentioned. He's been on a roll. So hopefully she puts it all together today with that equipment change.
I like the 4 in here a little bit. St. Pat's Day. Debuting locally versus winners after turning on the afterburners when drawing clear to win a $40,000 debut by 9 lengths. That was going 5.5 furlongs on the Tampa main track. Oh, so you say, how's that going to translate here? But I really respect the work that trainer John Vincent does, and he's got, she'll be tested for class, but I just think with Embassy El Haramia in the saddle, I couldn't leave this horse off my ticket.
You mentioned John Vincent, smaller outfit, but does really well and does well with horses that won last out. Amisael, I think that's a huge draw. I was just talking yesterday about the way he rides. He's always consistent, so I think you're getting a great rider. And when they team up here, they're almost 30%, so I think that's something to maybe note as well. And
you had the number 6, Bunny and Not Beast from Kelsey Danner's barn in second.
I was wondering how this horse is going to kind of fare now getting onto the dirt. Most recent breeze at Palm Meadows, it was before the last race, but had been training on the dirt, and I think the times are pretty solid. Last time out was a nice winner, was able to sit off the pace. So we'll see what this can do, stretching out a little bit today to that 6 furlong distance. The big question will be the surface.
Yeah, winner of 2 of 3 races.
Right.
So there's certainly a good form. Like you said, you got to figure out if she can translate that to the main track this afternoon. Race number 10, 1 mile allowance optional claimer, 3-year-olds and up. The optional claiming price is $25,000, no scratches. And this is sort of just to show you what Mish did last time out. So I just picked it up during the stretch run, and you're going to see this horse, just gliding through the stop. You're going to see the jockeys totally wrapped up. Gets a 96 buyer for this effort, just out there. Now, was it the sloppy track? Was it just Safi found another monster in his barn? Edwin Gonzalez named to ride. Look at this, just totally wrapped up.
It's a race for a mile. They still did 109 and, basically 3 for 6 furlongs, which is really quick. That was a back-to-back win for this runner, and it was just interesting to watch. Like you mentioned, Safi. I saw the silks. I saw a gray. Looks like a lot what we'll see in the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That looks a little bit like White Abarrio. Just was a monster last time out. So you have to think, can this horse make it 3 in a row? I mean, this horse went to the lead last time out, but 2 starts back, was able to sit. Looks extremely tough.
Well, I really think you're sharp putting the one disc jockey on your late pick 4, because that horse is a solid horse.
Yeah, he's no slouch. That's to say the least. Was a pretty nice runaway winner. 2 starts back at that $20,000 level. Was claimed off of Safi and joined the Bob Hess Jr. barn and just was denied. I know this horse was favored last time out, but only missed by a neck. Was kind of only, had 1 or 2 horses beaten early on and made a late run. I thought it was a really good race here at the mile.
Yeah, so what do you do with Mish, disc jockey, and you put someone underneath, or you single it and try and win it. A co-feature race of the afternoon is race number 11. It's 1 mile on the turf. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. $75,000. It is the Honey Rider. We did have 1 scratch in the number 3 horse in here, Lady Poochie. And what you started it off with the number 8 horse in here, Lover Lot. So let's kick it off there.
So one of my top plays on the day. Absolutely love this filly by Cupid, trained by Ron Spatz. I think this horse has hit a new dimension since getting onto the turf. The horse ran well on debut, was a runaway winner in the end on the main track. But these last 3 efforts on the turf, I don't know how you knock them. Has a win last time out, was able to close late, and then before that, 2 second-place finishes with the biggest defeat being a length. So I look at who she faced, that race 2 back Beech Nut Trophy. Race yesterday at Churchill Downs, finished 5th. Was no match for the winner in there, but I thought it was an okay performance leaving Gulfstream. So if I hopes for this one, I think the pace and the way it will set up, Lover Lots will be forwardly placed to make a late run.
The horse I have on top is the number 10 Fawning, I think 6-1 on the morning line. It's the daughter of Super Sai into Mischief, stretching out around the 2 turns today after tracking the pace and finishing third. That was in the 5 furlong, $75,000 Melody of Colors. Safi Joseph Jr. has got Marcos Meneses atop. It's sort of a long shot speed play for me. I just thought with the stretch out, top connections, maybe this horse can steal it.
The barn does well stretching horses out. Later on, I'll have to dig a stat up to see how that is on turf. It's, not just dirt and turf, but last time out, didn't miss by much. You mentioned coming out of some sprints, some of those races on the Tapeta, they were kind of quick early on, so it'll be interesting with the outside draw, where this horse kind of positions herself early on.
Well, what I meant, the big beat of 2021 on Diamond Val. We're going to go back to October 13th at Keeneland, and we're just going to show the top of the stretch home. She just ran so great. There she is, Diamond Val. Yeah, if you see the start of the race, it's great. She's so far out there, you can't believe it. But watch this, how she runs coming through the stretch. She is just the number 14. You're going to pick her up. She comes here, and this is it. She's winning, right? She's got it made
looks like
here.
she's the winner.
Coming from a ridiculously tough outside post, and then you see this horse on the outside just get up at the wire. Tough beat. Now, that's in the grade 2 Jessamine. That was serious competition. And that was from post 12, actually. She had the 14 number. That was some performance going back to the turf today.
She was sensational in her 2 performances here, one on the turf, one on the Tapeta, or I should say at the main track at that time, looking at the date. And then you showed that replay. What a heartbreaking loss, but a really good performance. You mentioned had the bad post and only was missed by a head in there behind California Angel, who was pretty impressive as well. And then the only time we've seen her this year was in the grade 3 Forward Gal. She's part of that pace scenario, pressing the pace, and she tired. So I think the key today is getting back on the turf locally.
Yeah, and I just think she sort of classes up really nicely in the spot. What about the number 6 in the Omichito from Fausto Gutierrez, who just keeps winning races?
He's winning races left and right. Every time I look up, I feel like I see his connections in the winner's circle. I thought this horse ran really well last time out, was forwardly placed in that 1 mile turf event, and was able to set pretty reasonable fractions for herself and draw clear by a length and a half. For her, her best races have been locally on the turf, and should be, again, like I mentioned, was forwardly placed. But even in her other races, if she doesn't make the lead, she should be right there.
Yeah, so going to be that is a great race to watch, see how that horse comes back. Let's go to the head scratcher of the day, and it's race 12, about 7.5 on the turf. Maiden claim is 3-0. I went with Squeeze Me Mike, just returning to the turf after responding to a drop down with an improved 4th place finish. That race was moved from the grass to a mile on the 70 yards on the Tapeta. It's more about Liz Doble. She does a great job. Embassy El Jaramillo in the saddle. I went there. You went with Duke Skywalker.
10 horses in this field. We've used 6 of them, and that's why we're calling it a head scratcher. You mentioned Squeeze Me Mike. This is a horse I thought about using. I like the 4. I'm glad you used Duke Skywalker somewhere. This horse debuted on the turf in a $75,000 stakes race. Never really showed much, but then I thought last time out, stretching out on the Tapeta, ran a decent third after being that part of the pace scenario. You can see it's been gelded, Lasix. We'll see how this one does as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I always sort of like that angle where the connections think this horse is good enough to put it in a stake or they're goofy, one or the other. But I agree. And then I use the inside horse, Starship Wizard, but you can use 6 like we did in this race, so that's what makes this great. But we got a little more to go. That's how we see the 12 race card, of course, but we're not done yet. We got our lightning round right now.
We still have plenty of action to get through.
And we have our Derby Day. We have a trio of Derby stars have fighting chances in the Kentucky Derby, so we thought we'd go back and show you the stretch run of the Florida Derby. And there you're going to see, of course, the horse coming up, and of course back there, Charge It, me coming up, trying to beat the horse here. His name slips me right now.
When you look at White Abarrio,
Charge It, yeah.
I mentioned earlier, White Abarrio looks just like Mish in a lot of ways, and Safi Joseph Jr. going to have a horse. You mentioned Charge It coming back in the Derby, and we can't forget about the other horse, Simplification.
Simplification, and if you follow Mike Welch, who does an excellent job, watching horses, he says Simplification is doing great, and I like Simplification because he's got those tactical moves. But you could see I was excited right there because I was watching Charge It, who was my pick in the Kentucky Derby. Now I didn't get your pick.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the free wager guide that's available on both of our picks are in there. You went with Charge It.
Right.
I went with Zandon, and that was before, I will say, before the draw in the morning line came up. I just thought the Bluegrass last time out was pretty impressive, I should say.
Yeah, this is great. It's absolutely free. You got to go on there. And it's, how many? I think 16 or 17 of our first bet handicappers giving their estimation. You know, so what they think is going to happen. I'm going with Charge It. So absolutely free. Just go to our first bet site and pick it up there. So hey, you know, we got maybe next year. Maybe we see a Kentucky Derby winner right here with these 2-year-olds.
We've seen a couple of impressive 2-year-olds so far, and we did see one yesterday. This one was Awesome Strong, trained by Jorge Delgado. Once this horse was kind of in the stretch, just really poured it on, and I think the margin of victory was 6 lengths.
Yeah, you know, breaking from the rail is always a concern with first-time starters. That's a nice horse, so you watch him go down through the, you know, we'll see mistakes action for sure here at Gulfstream Park. And then we got some stakes action tomorrow, so it's going to be interesting for us. So we'll see. We got 2 races. We got Grand Avenue Girl headlining Sunday's Monroe on the turf.
And look at this replay from Grand Avenue Girl. This race was on March 20th. This horse had the lead coming in the stretch and really was able to hold on at a big price of 11-1. This one for E5 Racing. It'll be interesting to see. You mentioned 2 stakes tomorrow. It's been a pretty busy weekend here at Gulfstream.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're out there, make sure you do all your betting on our stuff first, and then you can go over and bet Gulfstream stuff.
Yeah, we're just being selfish, right?
Yeah, Kentucky stuff then later on. But just have a great day. As we mentioned at the top, Brian Addo will be joining us. And thank you, and you'll be with us all day, too.
I will be here all day. Let's get some winners.
The Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance is really the vehicle for the transition for our racehorses coming off the track into a second career and safe environment for these horses when they're done racing. I've been passionate about racehorses my whole life, animals in general, and without the TAA to provide that oversight, there would be a big void in terms of making sure that we have this ongoing safe environment for our off-the-track racehorses. I'm excited about the undertaking and excited about working with our board and our team at the TAA to continue the wonderful progress that has been made. So I'm very excited about what the future holds.